Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Shenanigans podcast. Today with Jacob Maggard and
Colin Richardson.
back for another mock draft. Of course, if you guys have checked out the mocks on the channel, we've done quite a few of these. We've got a lot of different ways we've tested things, but now we're getting really close to the draft, and we're really getting some good insider information from some of the top mock drafters and some of the guys that are really giving us inside sources. They talk with teams, with agents, and with other scouts, and so they kind of have an idea. And with that, the closer we get, the more accurate we can hopefully be. But today we want to bring you a two-round mock draft. We have not experimented with that yet this year, but we've talked about a lot of these players, and we've had a bunch of them moving in and out of the first round. So we know where some of these guys can go, and more so than anything, it's positional fit and best player available once you get into that second round. So we'll kind of talk about that more when we get there, but we'll try to roll through some of this first round quicker since we've done this quite often. Starting off with the number one pick here, I'll go ahead and lead us off and say this is Fernando Mendoza. It's been Fernando Mendoza. It will continue to be Fernando Mendoza to the Las Vegas Raiders. Colin, nothing else I got to say about that. I think everybody knows that's happening, so I'll let you roll on into number two here.
Yeah, so at the number two pick, I've got the Jets going with David Bailey out of Texas Tech. It was kind of middle of the season. It was down maybe pick 15 or
Yeah.
so. And he's just throughout testing at the combine and postseason type stuff. He's worked his way up the board. So teams have really liked what they've saw out of him. And the Jets, they desperately need pretty much everything.
Yeah.
So I think getting David Bailey here would be huge for them. Edge rusher is a premier position. So I think the Jets would be smart getting him a really good one here in David Bailey.
Yep, absolutely agree with you. Like you said, he's moved up boards quite a bit. This was never really the pick at two. It was a lot of Arvell Reese. It was a lot of let's see what Ruben Bain does and how does he measure at the combine, and all those things have kind of come and gone. And now David Bailey's jumped up the board. It seems like the consistency on the field when he had 14 plus sacks last year has made teams want to pick him higher. Moving on to number three here with the Cardinals. This is a team that we've had go a ton of different routes. I think that they're going to kind of look at best player available as well. They have a lot of needs on this team right now, but how do you pass up Arvell Reese? In my opinion, that's where I'm going to go with this one. I think there's multiple directions they could go. I could see them taking offensive linemen. I could see them even reaching for Sonny Styles because of that combine. But give me Arvell Reese with the ability to rush off the edge. And even though he isn't necessarily the biggest edge rusher in the world, he's a freak athlete. He can also drop back and play some outside linebacker in coverage for me. And if you're bringing me that kind of value at three, I think it's worth it. Even though, again, he's not really the truest edge rusher on the board. Moving to number four here. This is where we go a little bit out of order. And Colin, he's a Steelers fan. I'm a Titans fan. If you've been here before, you know that. If not, well, there's our bias. There's our teams we like, but we'll also get a pick for our teams. And as a Titans fan, I'm picking here at four. To me, this is a very easy pick for me as a fan. Something that I've kind of fallen in love with, no pun intended, and that is Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. If you want to help out your quarterback, go get a freak athlete that can catch passes out of the backfield, improve that rushing attack, and it boosts the offense to another level. And it gives Cam Ward more options to go out and deliver the ball to different players because there was issues last year where they were throwing to three rookies, and that was the targets. It just can't happen. You've got to build a better team. I think Jeremiah Love could easily come into the league and immediately be a top 10 running back. And if he shows that unbelievable athleticism, I've always called him an Olympic level athlete just playing football. There's really a lot of upside for him in the future. So I love Jeremiah Love going to the Titans at four. Colin, rolling into number five here with the Giants. Where are you going to go?
Yeah, number five, I've got the Giants going with Sonny Styles out of Ohio State. Like you said, he had an incredible combine and a really, really good year at Ohio State. Him and Arvell Reese both were
Yep.
incredible for Ohio State. And then he's a freak athlete. So I think, I mentioned it before with Kyle Hamilton, with his kind of comparison with Sonny Styles at the combine. He's actually a better athlete than him. And you saw what John Harbaugh was able to do with Kyle Hamilton in Baltimore. So I think you could see something similar, maybe not as much safety out of Sonny Styles, but kind of a similar role for him in that Giants defense.
Yeah, and you mentioned Combine. This was this Combine superstar. This is a guy that he would have tested well at multiple different positions. That's how talented he is. And like you said, Harbaugh is going to untap that potential and you really get him on the field in many different ways. He could even edge rush at points if you needed him to because of his speed and his size. But pairing him up beside Tremaine Edmonds, throw a little hype towards our former Hokie there. It's going to be a really good linebacking core if they draft Sonny Styles. I think it could be one of the best defenses in the league. They have done a very good job at drafting up a super strong defense going going into next season. Moving on to number 6 here with the Cleveland Browns. This is a team that we've had taken a guy staying in the state and Carnell Tate plenty of times in our mock drafts. If you guys like that as a Browns fan, go back and watch one of those, see how the board plays out for you. But today, we're going to go with the left tackle and the only true left tackle in this class in Monroe Freeling out of Georgia. This is another guy that has really jumped up draft boards, mainly because of his ability to play left tackle. He's a very big human being, and there's not many of those guys in this draft. A lot of right tackles or a lot of tackles they're going to shift to guard. This one's a true left tackle. So I see him coming in here, immediately shoring up that edge, and you got to have a tackle to protect your quarterback, whoever that's going to be. If it's going to be Shedeur for another season, or if you're going to take a chance on someone later in the draft, you need to protect them, and that's the best way to do it is go out and get a first round tackle like Monroe Freeling there to the Cleveland Browns. Colin, moving on to you there at number 7 with the Commanders. We're going to have them going.
Yep, I've got them going with Carnell Tate out of Ohio State. They have a pretty big need at wide receiver, and I think you get the best one in the draft here with Carnell Tate. And like you said, he's from Ohio State, and those guys rarely ever seem to bust. So I think it's almost a guarantee with him at wide receiver, and you're supporting your young quarterback, which you can never go wrong doing that. So I really like this pick for the Commanders here.
Yeah, and they have their own receiver concerns because, again, props to another Hokie. Jalen Lane had a good season last year as that slot receiver, punt returner, doing the specialist type things, but they don't have a lot of receiver choices. Terry McLaurin, of course, just signed that contract, but then there's the real question mark of his health. He was unable to play most of the season, and then Deebo Samuel's out the door. So you don't have many receivers that you can trust. Go get Carnell Tate. He's your number 2 if Terry McLaurin's fully available and ready to go, but he could very easily become that number 1 for this team. So love that draft pick a lot there at number 7. Moving on to number 8 here with the New Orleans Saints. This is a team that they just watched a monster wreak havoc in the national championship game and throughout the season, and that's Rueben Bain Jr., a guy that to me has dropped down too many boards just because he doesn't have the long arms. Well, buddy, he dominated some really good linemen in college with the short arms. I don't have too many concerns that he could continue to do that in the NFL, but this team specifically in the Saints, they don't have really much edge rush help at all. They just lost their best edge rusher in Cam Jordan. So when they have to patch the holes and there's a very, very good player available at 8, you cannot pass him up. Give me Rueben Bain. I think he's a phenomenal player. I myself wouldn't be upset if the Titans went with Bain at number 4. So I'm still high on him. Love the potential, and the Saints get a guy that was originally talked about as potentially the number 2 pick down at number 8. I think they'd be pretty happy about that. Moving on to number 9 here, Colin, with the Chiefs. Not usually up here this high in the draft. Who are you going to have them taken at this point?
Yep, I've got him going with Jordan Tyson out of Arizona State. He's got potential to be the best receiver in this draft. I really like his potential, and I think the Chiefs they have another team that has a need at wide receiver. You've got Rashee Rice, but there's question marks there, and then there's Xavier Worthy, which he's not been as good as the Chiefs probably would have liked. So I think getting Jordan Tyson here, another weapon for Patrick Mahomes, would be huge. And then Mahomes is wanting to come back week 1 next year, so I think you get another weapon for him, and I think the Chiefs are right back where they were before.
Yeah, and they kind of made that surprising addition in the offseason of Travis Kelce extending his contract for a few years. So he's still going to be there. I think you're kind of building to try to push for the Super Bowl yet again in the next 2 to 3 years. And if he's healthy week 1 and you get him another weapon that literally could be the best receiver in this class, maybe the best weapon in this class, it's scary because the Chiefs could get really, really good yet again. I think that the question mark is obviously how healthy will he be? He's missed 2 full college football seasons basically, and he missed a lot of big games and a lot of important games that wasn't available. So we've seen guys have this issue in the past, come to the NFL and never get hurt again and have a great career. So they're going to bank on that. They kind of have the team where they have a little bit of the royalty to be able to do that because their team is already so well coached and so talented. So again, it makes a lot of sense there at number 9. The Chiefs add a weapon for Mahomes. Moving on to number 10 here with the Bengals. This is a team that they have a lot of question marks on the defensive side of the ball, and there's a player here that could arguably be one of the most talented players in this draft, and that's Caleb Downs, coming out of the secondary at Ohio State, where he was a starter from day 1 at Alabama with Nick Saban, who doesn't start freshmen unless they're talented enough to be out there. And that really shows you something. He was that good there. He goes on to win a national championship at Ohio State. He goes on to be one of the best defensive players in the country for 3 straight seasons. He now gets to come into the NFL, stay in his home state, or not necessarily his home state, but the state he was playing college football, and go down there to Cincinnati and play with the Bengals. think it's a really, really good addition for the Bengals. Again, they are getting a super talented player at 10 just because of his value at the position. I think this could help their defense a lot, and you know it because you're watching them play all the time against the Steelers. That defense needs help, and it's needed help for the last many, many years. So they go out and they add a really good player, Caleb Downs, there at 10. Colin, moving on to number 11 here, a team that is moving in a completely new direction. What are you going to have them doing at 11?
Yeah, I've got him going with Francis Mauigoa. I think the value here is incredible at 11. He's arguably the best tackle in the draft, and you can snatch him at 11 here. Obviously, the Dolphins need some help on that offensive line for whoever their quarterback's going to be. It's obviously not going to be Tua anymore. But I mean, shoring up your offensive tackle is huge for any team. Any good team that you see in the playoff has a pretty good offensive tackle typically. So, another position of value. So I think the Dolphins can't really go wrong here, especially getting him at all the way down at 11 when you've seen him going up all the way up at 3 at some
Yeah.
in some drafts. So, I really like the value here for the Dolphins.
Yeah, and you have to imagine they've had scouts at every single home game that he's played.
Yeah.
It's literally in their stadium. They play home football games in Hard Rock. So they've had as many eyes on him as you can possibly think. And you can't tell me you watch that freak out there mauling in the run game and only giving up a sack all season. I mean, you can't look at that and say the guy isn't talented enough to play tackle in the NFL. So I think you slot him in at right tackle, or if you want to attempt to play him at left tackle. The Dolphins, they don't have a lot of stuff going for them right now, and their future is more so in a rebuild. So go out and grab an athletic freak that could be a really good offensive lineman in the NFL. Love that pick at 11. Like you said, the value is incredible. Going on to number 12 here. This is a team that has had some desperate secondaries. They have run out there and just tried to guard guys by just let's see if we can keep them in front of us. Don't let them beat us for the deep ball, and then they get beat for the deep ball anyways. They had a guy in Trevon Diggs who was awesome for a season, and you kind of saw the regression immediately there. And then they've had the other cornerbacks and just DBs galore fall off, and they need a strong number one corner more than anything. Go out and grab Mansour Delane. This is a guy that can go inside the top 10. He seems to be quite easily the best corner in this draft, but either way, he's available at 12. You grab him. I think they could even trade up to get a guy like this. So, again, with him sitting there, you get a number one corner who just had an awesome season in college. Still going to claim him at DBU, at Virginia Tech. Going to claim him. We developed him. He just went to LSU and broke out. But he had an awesome season, and I think the Cowboys are getting a really good one there at 12. Moving on to our next team here in the LA Rams. They did make some offseason additions. This is a spot where we had cornerback mocked a ton. They have went out and added corners, so that's no longer the biggest pressing need. Colin, what are they going to be doing now?
Yeah, so I've got him drafted Mekhi Lemon out of USC. Another guy, he had a great year. And I honestly don't think you can go wrong any of the top
Hmm.
four wide receivers. I think they're kind of swappable. I do think Tate's probably the best one, just probably because he's from Ohio State. Like I said, these
Yeah.
guys rarely bust. But the Rams, they've got I don't they've got a little bit of question mark at wide
Yes.
receiver right now. You got Devontae Adams, he's getting older, and then Puka Nacua is having some off-field issues, so you don't know what's going to come of that. And honestly, I don't think Devontae Adams can go out there and just be the only
Yeah.
really good receiver you have at this point in his career. And you've got Matthew Stafford coming back. You don't know how much longer he's going to be around. So you really want to push for something. And like I said, if it's just Devontae Adams out there, I don't think they're a Super Bowl team.
Yeah.
But if you add Mekhi Lemon and then you have Puka Nacua and you have Devontae Adams, that's going to be really scary. And even if it's just Devontae Adams and Mekhi Lemon, it's still pretty scary. So I like this pick here for the Rams.
Yeah, and he's the Biletnikoff winner. He was the best receiver in college football, as voted by the people that vote on that award. So they took him over Tate, and then he had a good season, of course. And there was a teammate of his in college that maybe should have won that award, Jeremiah Smith. But Mekhi Lemon takes it home, and if he's beating that group of guys for that award, it means he's pretty talented. He's also got the ability to play different positions, so that's going to be really important because if you have Nacua, Adams, and Lemon, one of them has to play the slot receiver position. So you have Lemon's versatility, his ability to go inside and play there if you need him to. Love the pick for the Rams. Thinks it makes them clearly one of the best offenses in the league, if they weren't already one of the best offenses in the league going into the season. Moving on to number 14 here. This is a team that just lost one of the best centers in all of football, if not the best center in all of football, because they couldn't pay him. Well, now you go out and you draft his replacement. That's Spencer Fano. Now you're going to see the name, you're going to see the tackle listed there. If you watch his tape, of course he played that. But the rumor amongst a lot of the Guys at the combine and some of the scouting we're hearing is they're going to move him inside. He's a guy that is so talented that he can play anywhere on the offensive line, and the rumor is you're going to shift him down and play him at center. If he wants to, they can play him at tackle. I don't think that that's the strongest position ever for this team, but center guard are concerns. And if Fanu can play and fill the gaps on the inside of that line to try to keep Lamar Jackson healthy, that should be your focus point. Go out, make sure he is available because he's an MVP level quarterback when he can play football. Last year, a lot of injuries held him back. Love the pick there at 14. Thinks it helps out the Ravens a ton. Maybe they make that strong push again in the AFC. Moving on to 15 here, Colin, with the Buccaneers. What do you have them doing?
Yeah, I've got him drafting Akeem Mesidor out of Miami. He had a really, really, really good year for Miami
Yes.
this year. Had a ton of sacks. If he can get a sack, that's all I care about. I
Yeah.
mean, you saw it with Pittsburgh, James Harrison. He was 5'11" and
Yeah.
was still the sack leader until TJ Watt came along. So, and the Buccaneers, they need a an elite edge rusher, and I think that's exactly what they're getting with Akeem Mesidor.
Yeah, and again, just a freak athlete too. You talk about both of those guys coming from Miami. They were wrecking havocs on team all year. They were getting in the backfield, and actually Bain was more so the TFL guy, the pressure guy. Messidor was the one getting the sacks a lot of the time. Saw a couple of those big plays in the playoffs. So love both of those edge rushers, and I think they both have the ability to go inside the top 15. It's why a team like Miami was in the national championship game because that defense was so strong. He's jumped up boards a ton during the combine process, and just teams looking at him and evaluating him and say, man, this guy's good enough to go this high in the draft. And so that's where he ends up for us at 15. Moving on to number 16 here with the Jets. Again, this team has some quarterback question marks, and this might be a Ty Simpson spot if you wanted to take him this high. I don't know if that happens here. Today, we're going to go with a receiver to try to help out Geno Smith. Of course, he has returned to the New York Jets. We're going to grab Omar Cooper. This is another guy we've seen fly up draft boards. If you watch college football at all, this guy had one of the best catches you will see in your life, maybe. He toe tapped one that just didn't seem it was like it was a possible catch. It had one of the best calls in any game this year. Gus Johnson going absolutely berserk when he catches that ball. Basically said, "Let's give Fernando Mendoza the Heisman right now." But that Omar Cooper catch is what secured that game, led to them having an undefeated season. And just every time you threw him the ball, he put his hands up and he called it. There was really no issue of all that he was going to drop it. He didn't fumble. He didn't make mistakes. So Omar Cooper, extremely talented player, goes out to New York, helps out Geno Smith, right beside Garrett Wilson. And that could actually end up being a pretty good receiver room. Love the pick there for the Jets at 16. Moving on to number 17 here with the Lions. Colin, there is a very obvious player on the board for them. Who you going to have them taking?
Yeah, I've got him going with Vega Ione out of Penn State. This guy could be the best offensive lineman in the draft, but not as much positional value there at guard. So he's going to slide down to 17. And I think the Lions are super happy to get him here. They do have a need at tackle,
Yeah.
as Taylor Decker did retire, but all the top tackles are off the board at this point. So Vega Ione, they also have a need at guard. So he'll slide in and start day one. I think he's like, you slide him in and he's there for a decade.
Yeah.
So I think this would be a great pick for the Lions here at 17.
Yeah, absolutely. And everything you said there is complete truth. This guy is so unbelievably talented that he's worth it as a guard in my eyes. This is a guy that, like you said, could be the very best offensive lineman in the entire draft. If you're getting him at 17, that's unreal value. And again, the Lions, they want to be a lot better. And Dan Campbell himself said, we were nowhere near good enough. If you go out and add the best potential player on the board, it only makes you better. It can't hurt you. And like you said, I see a long, long career for a guy that is as talented as Ione is there at number 17. Moving on to number 18 here, another combine hero, a dude that really boosted his stock, and that's Dylan Thieneman out of Oregon. Of course, you talk about Penn State, you talk about Ione. This Dylan Thieneman here is the reason that James Franklin is coaching at Virginia Tech now. It's the reason that Penn State's season was derailed. Thieneman had a pick in overtime, and it was an unbelievable play. And from there on out, he was one of the best defensive players in the entire country. He then goes out, like I said, shows out at the combine, runs a great time, and does well in the on-field drills. And just every team has decided, hey, man, this dude's good enough to be a top 20 draft pick. We've seen him mocked right here to 18 a ton of times. It seems like a pick that is almost locked in. They need to go address the D line or grab a safety, and this kid is unbelievable. He can do it in the highest levels for you. Again, transferred to Oregon and was extremely successful. So, love Dylan Thieneman at 18 to the Vikings. Colin, number 19 here, Bryce Young, he needs some weapons. Where are you going to go with this pick?
Yep, I got him going. Kenyon Sadiq out of Oregon. They really need a tight end. They've
Yep.
got Tommy Tremble, who's been okay in his career, but I mean, Kenyon Sadiq is going to be elite. He can block well. He's like an almost a wide receiver,
Yeah.
as fast as he is. He
Yeah.
can run routes. I think that he's clearly the best tight end in this draft, and honestly, any tight end that you consider in the first round is going to be really good.
Yep.
So. I love Kenyon Sadiq here. I think, like I said, there's Tommy Tremble who's been okay, but I think Bryce Young is getting an elite weapon with Kenyon Sadiq, and that's something that the Panthers need. Obviously, they made the playoffs this year. You saw some Tetairoa McMillan. He made a big step or had a great rookie year rather.
Yep.
And then you just add another weapon to this offense, and the defense was already pretty good. So I think this team could take another step forward with Kenyon Sadiq here.
Yeah, I think they're heading in the right direction. And like you said, you're just adding a super valuable asset at the tight end position where he can go out and he can actually block. He's not horrible at it. He's a decent blocker, so he can affect the run game. But on top of that, he is a freak athlete. I mean, the dude goes out and runs a 4.3, 4.4 at the combine. And if you're doing that as a tight end, you have unbelievable talent. It's just something that you're blessed with. And so you get that kind of weapon there at 19. It seems like a steal for the Panthers. And again, going into next season, that's going to be one of those guys that's drafted very high in fantasy football as well because of the ability to break out and be a really high level receiver in that Panthers offense. Moving on to pick 20 here with the Dallas Cowboys. Of course, this pick acquired from the Green Bay Packers. This team has already addressed that cornerback need. And honestly, they could do it again. They could go draft another corner because this secondary is extremely weak, and there's obviously things you can address by just going out and doing that. But we're going to stay away from that. We're going to go with the edge rusher here, and we're just going to go with a high upside edge rusher, and T.J. Parker out of Clemson. This is a guy that had a lot of different things happen in his college career. It started out really hot. It was unbelievable. He looked like one of the best players in the draft board, a guy that could have went inside the top 10. But then last year he didn't have the best season. But Clemson overall didn't have an awesome season. So I think a lot of their guys have been dinked for how bad the season was last year and maybe not paying much attention to how good they were 2 years ago or a year ago. So I think DJ Parker has all the talent in the world. I think he's a phenomenal edge rusher that has a lot of ability. He's athletic, he's quick, and they need that. They need a guy that can come off the edge and make plays. So you go out, you get TJ Parker, you get that high potential guy to rush the passer. So you've now grabbed a corner and an edge rusher, and hopefully that defense improves if you're a Cowboys fan next season. Moving on to number 21 here. Like I said at the beginning of this, Colin is a Steelers fan. Gonna let him make this pick.
Yep. So I've got him going with Emmanuel McNeil Warren out of Toledo. You kind of saw him shoot up draft boards after the combine. He had a really good combine and a really good year at Toledo as well. The Steelers last year struggled at safety. You saw Deshaun Elliott go down, and then it was Juan Thornhill, and then he was absolutely terrible. So Kyle Duggar came in, and he played all right, but now
Yep.
he's gone too. So there is a hole there at safety, and I think that Emmanuel McNeil Warren comes in and fits that hole great. So. I like this pick for Pittsburgh. Obviously, they need a receiver, but I'm not a huge fan of any of the other receivers for them in this position. I mean, you could go Boston, but he's more of an outside threat, and you've got Metcalf and Pittman now. So I don't think that you're looking for a little bit of a different skill set than those two
Yep.
guys. So I like safety here for Pittsburgh.
Yep. Another combine hero. We've talked about it a couple times. This was a draft that originally we were saying all we're taking is Caleb Downs. No other safeties are going in the first because it's just not positional value. Now everybody's got three of them going in the first round because Thieneman and McNeil Warren with those awesome combines and just their ability, how talented they look when they're on the field. Also, props to Toledo, creating DBs left and right, putting them in the league. So Toledo may be the mid-major or the non-power DBU because they have produced some really nice DBs over the last few years. Moving on to number 22 here with the Chargers, and of course there's a lot of question marks with this team. There is the whole tackle situation, but I think both of their tackles are incredible. I don't think there's any chance at all they go with one here, in just my personal opinion, because those two guys are so talented. So I'm going to go with the edge rusher. I'm going to go with Cassius Howell. And this is a guy that we've seen fall down the boards. We had him, early on in the top 15, one of those top edge rushers. I think we had him going up to Dallas at 12 before because of his location and them being able to scout him really well. So This is a guy that, because of just not the best postseason, not the best pro days, not the best combines, he falls down the board a little bit. But again, I think he's very talented. He did have 10 sacks in the SEC. If you're doing that in the SEC, you're doing it against really good tackles. Maybe you can come and do that in the NFL. And then the Chargers, of course, they lost Odafe Owe, who was an awesome trade. He then goes and gets a bag this offseason. They're not able to pay that, and so they need to replace him. Cassius Howe makes a lot of sense at 22. Moving on to number 23 here with a little bit of a rumor. Maybe that's what we're drafting off of here. We haven't done it yet. Colin, gonna have something crazy happening here with the Eagles at 23. What is that?
Yeah, I got the Eagles drafting Denzel Boston out of Washington. It's really easy to say Denzel Washington out of Boston, but
Yeah.
uh, anyways, yeah. So the Eagles have some concerns at wide receiver as well, kind of like the Rams.
Yep.
You don't with AJ Brown, you just really never know. So
Yep.
you've got him. He didn't really even have that good of a year this year, and then there's Devontae Smith as well, who's kind of underperformed a little bit as well. So you're not really getting as much out of him as you want. And you saw how bad this offense struggled. Obviously, you still have Saquon Barkley, and I think he can still be a stud as long as you have a passing game to go along with it. And I think getting Denzel Boston and getting Jalen Hurts another weapon would be huge for that offense, and maybe get them back to rolling like they were 2 years ago.
Yeah, and again, we're making this pick, like I said before he picked it, off the crazy AJ Brown gets traded. That's what we're doing this. We're banking on him getting traded. We're banking on him getting moved because the sources are saying he's a big target to be moved. And of course, this is a draft night trade potentially where we see them move up. What if they do what the Titans did back a few years ago when we traded AJ Brown was to move up, take a receiver. That didn't work at all, but maybe they learned something from that. Maybe they're just a better drafting team than us. But they could move up and take one of those top receivers early in the draft. And if that happens, then this pick doesn't make a lot of sense because it's Denzel Boston, but it makes a lot of sense because we're projecting a receiver to the Eagles. Who knows? Denzel Boston's very talented. He's an outside threat. That's exactly what A.J. Brown is. So it makes a lot of sense for the fit just for that purpose alone. Moving on to number 24 here. We're getting even more exciting. We're changing it up again. We're going to go with quarterback Ty Simpson to the Cleveland Browns. This is a very obvious spot for him to be able to go back into the first round. You get the fifth year so that you can extend the quarterback for free, basically. Not free, but you don't have to let him hit free agency. Not everybody else is going to up his contract even more. You have that ability for 5 years to hold on to him, to develop him, and hope he turns into a star in this league. He had a good combine. I think teams saw that. They are definitely going to consider him in the first round now. And I don't think Shedeur Sanders is blocking you from picking a quarterback. He was drafted very late in the draft in the fifth round. He's shown some flashes, but at the same time, he turned the ball over 11 times in the short amount of appearances he had. Nothing really popped off the sheet and said, man, this guy is a long-term NFL quarterback. I think Ty Simpson has some traits that can make him that in the NFL. He's a smarter player. I also think that he has some rushing ability too, which is kind of something you don't expect out of Ty Simpson. But he can move a little bit, make plays. The modern day quarterback has to be able to do that. I think he can. And again, this team, they haven't had a quarterback for a while, and the last one they had, it went on to be really good with the Buccaneers, but just not so great with them. So a lot of question marks at that position. You get the fifth year option if you take him in the first round, and so we're going to have them taking Ty Simpson. And we may not do this again in a mock, but today we felt like let's throw Ty Simpson in the first round to the Cleveland Browns. And again, it makes a lot of sense there at 24. Moving on to number 25 here with the Chicago Bears, we're going to have the Bears going.
Yep, I've got him going with Caden Proctor, another guy who has a ton of upside. He's absolutely massive. And needs to work a little bit on the pass blocking, maybe, but he's an absolute mauler in the run game.
Yep.
And the Bears GM has been known to draft some really good offensive linemen while he was with the Chiefs. So I really like this pick for the Bears. Like I said, kind of an upside pick here with Proctor. And obviously, if it works out, you've got your tackle for a long time or maybe even guard. Um, and then obviously you want someone that's going to be able to protect Caleb Williams. So I really like this pick for the Bears there. Just keep improving on that offense with Ben Johnson. I mean, heck, you might see this guy score a touchdown again, like he did in Alabama. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens there.
And Ryan Poles, of course, has a very good career of drafting linemen and developing linemen. So let him take the shot. Let him grab the upside guy. He's 6'8", 360 pounds. I mean, if he's good, he's unbelievable. Like he's a unit of a human being. You get him out there, you test him out, you see if he can play tackle in the NFL, and if he can, it could be an absolute steal at 25. Moving on to number 26 here. with the Buffalo Bills on the clock. Of course, a team that they have a lot of question marks as well because last year was supposed to be the year where you go out and you win the AFC. You didn't do that. You had a lot of you avoided a lot of the top guys. You didn't have to face Mahomes. You didn't have to face Burrow. They aren't there. They're gone. And you still weren't able to get it done. So I think those issues have to be addressed. But you're getting a steal here potentially if you get C.J. Allen at 26. This is a linebacker who led Georgia's defense, one of the best defenses in the entire country. He was the captain. He had the green dot on the helmet, and I think he can come in and do that immediately for the Buffalo Bills. He can be their captain of the defense. He can be the quarterback of the defense, lead this defensive unit, and again, I think that improves them a lot. They have to have somebody back there stopping the run game and helping out with that. So 26, C.J. Allen could be an absolute steal if the Bills get him there. Moving on to number 27 here with the San Francisco 49ers. A lot of question marks in their own right. Colin, what are you going to have them doing here?
Yeah, I got the 49ers drafting Caleb Lomu out of Utah. He's the other tackle that Utah had. They had two really, really good tackles this year, both first rounders. And then obviously the 49ers are having some question marks there
Yeah.
with Trent Williams. He's not showing up to camp. He's probably going to be traded. We don't know who
Yep.
he's going to be traded to yet, or even if he is going to be traded, but there are definitely some question marks there. And if he's gone, that is a huge piece you're missing. Obviously, one of the best tackles in the NFL. And you're going to need somebody to replace him and be able to protect Brock Purdy. So I think Caleb Lomu will slide in at tackle, and he should be able to do just fine for the 49ers.
Yeah, and again, even if for some reason he decides to come back, he's 38. So it's not like it's the worst pick ever, even if he's on the team. You're going to need a replacement very soon, and it's better to have one ready to go than to not have one there and have a left tackle as a missing player out there. So good, go out Caleb Blumu, a guy that could easily slot in and play that position. Had a lot of success there at Utah in college. Moving on to number 28 here. It seems like a lot of the media and a lot of the guys that have actual intel believe that they need to address the offensive line. I've said this time and time again. I think that this offensive line is not very good, and they just keep trading away players. I think you have to fix it, and I'm going to go with Blake Miller out of Clemson. This is a guy that has moved up draft boards in the draft process throughout the offseason. So I think that they go out and get him. Again, Clemson struggled, but he was a bright spot. He was a pretty good offensive lineman. And like I said before, they have to fix that issue, and they need to do it quick. CJ Stroud cannot get hurt again. This team is supposed to be expected to compete for Super Bowls right now because their defense is maybe the best in the league. The offense was far behind them in that right. So go out, get an offensive lineman, help protect your quarterback, and maybe this offense gets a little bit better next year to try to complement that incredible defense. Moving on to number 29 here, of course, the Rams go out, trade for McDuffie from the Chiefs. The Chiefs now have this pick. Colin, what are you going to have them doing at number 29?
Yep, I've got them filling in that spot for McDuffie, and they're going to get Jermon McCoy here, the second best. Some people have him as the first best corner in the draft. So I think the Chiefs being able to get that at 29 is an absolute steal.
Yep.
Honestly, I think the Chiefs are set up to have a really good draft this year. They kind of need receiver and corner, and both of these positions are super deep in the draft. So even if they don't get McCoy and they've got to go with Terrell or Colton Hood, I think they're both going to be really good as well. So, like I said, I think the Chiefs are bound to have a good draft this year, especially with two first round picks. He's going to fill in for McDuffie. There is obviously a hole there at corner, and then you get the receiver and you get the corner, and I think the Chiefs are kind of coming back, unfortunately.
Yeah, and you just can't get rid of them. We
Yeah.
wanted to experiment with this today. Jamal McCoy, of course, with the injury. Who knows what the rest of the industry feels? They're saying he's more than likely healthy. We've had him mocked at the top of most of our boards, but today we just wanted to experiment. If he drops down this board and lands with the Chiefs, how much better do they get if they land this kind of talent at 29 if he's actually available and ready to play? Seems that he's okay. It seems that he's healthy, but we experimented with that today, and he drops all the way to 29. And man, the Chiefs just load up in this draft, taking the shot at 9 with a guy like Tyson who could be hurt, and taking the shot at 29 with a guy like McCoy who could be hurt. Again, the Chiefs have the royalties, the level of roster that they can take chances and try to hit huge upside swings with those talented players. Moving on to number 30 here with the Miami Dolphins. Of course, you see them acquire this pick via the Jalen Waddle trade to the Denver Broncos, and it pretty much makes perfect sense that you can now grab the replacement. Go out and grab a receiver. Casey Concepcion, a guy that was drafted much higher in some of our mocks early in the process, is liked by the industry and a guy that can make a difference for sure for this Dolphins team immediately. You have to have somebody from Malik Willis to throw the ball to. So go out, get Casey Concepcion, let him throw him the ball, and see if they can create a really dynamic duo between the two of them. Again, a guy that's played slot for most of his career in college, but he can space out and play on the outside. He's just a little bit smaller for that role, but they have to have somebody to throw the ball to, and a really good receiver still available at 30. I think that makes sense for them to make the pick there. Rolling on into number 31 here, a team that played in the Super Bowl and lost. They have no receivers either, other than, of course, the breakout star in Kayshon Boutte. But the question marks, of course, are what are you going to do at receiver? Because this is not the spot you're picking one. There's none left. We've had them all go in this draft. So they're going to shift it up, go a different direction. Colin, what direction is that?
Yeah, I've got him going with Caleb Banks out of Florida. There's obviously some injury concern there as he
Yeah,
missed pretty much all of last year and then broke a split at the pro day. So we'll see how teams look at that.
yeah,
But I think you're getting, if he's healthy, he's one of the best players in the draft.
yeah.
The upside there is unbelievable. So if he stays healthy for the Patriots, I think they're getting a really, really good football player. So I think you're really happy with this if you're a Patriots fan, because once he comes back, you're getting an absolute mammoth of a human.
Yeah.
So I really like this pick for the Patriots. And also in this draft, I think there are some kind of like with Pittsburgh, you want a first round receiver,
Yep.
obviously, but I think there's still some good options once you get to the second round. So I think the Patriots would be fine snagging one of those second round receivers.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. Like we said, there's just nothing left at receiver to take at 31. So you go and grab a really high upside player in Caleb Banks who could come in and affect the D line immediately, be your nose tackle, be your future on the interior of the defensive line. I think he's a really, really good player. And if you're getting him at 31, if he's fully healthy, it's a steal. If he's not, then you took the risk. And I think that the Patriots, they may be in the position to take that kind of risk. They have a really good team, a talented defensive coach that can practice and train this guy up. So I think Caleb Banks is a really good pick there at 31 for the Patriots. Moving on to number 32 here with the Seattle Seahawks. Of course, this is a team that has their own secondary concerns due to the loss of some of the really good free agents that they had. We're going to go Avion Terrell here out of Clemson. Of course, we've talked about how he really isn't the prototype of his brother. He's a different type of player, but he still had a really good season at Clemson. So I think he can come in, make a difference for this secondary. And do the Seahawks really need any help in their secondary? Their defense is incredible. The losses, they just go out and replace it with another very talented guy. So I think you can expect the Seahawks to be right back in the position they were this year. And they add an additional superstar potentially in Avion Terrell out of Clemson. Now, moving on past the first round. Of course, we gave you guys the first round. We've been giving you the first round for quite some time. Now we're going to roll into the second round of this mock draft, which we have not done yet. This is mine, Colin's first time diving into the second round. We're going to roll into it here with the New York Jets. Of course, Colin, you're going to lead us off here to start the second round. What do you have the Jets doing?
Yeah, I've got him going with Colton Hood out of Tennessee. Had an incredible year for Tennessee. He was supposed to be paired up with Tennessee's other first round
Yeah.
corner, which I guess he's going second round, but other guy was hurt all year. So Colton Hood stepped up and had a really good year. So the Jets are, like I said, they need just about everything. So I think he's pretty much the best player available at this point as well.
Yep.
So you're getting kind of a steal here at 33. So a really good pick here for the Jets.
Yeah, I think he's a really good player. I think it makes a lot of sense there at 33. And like you said, he had to step up and be the CB1 this year, transferred in from Colorado, and he absolutely was that. Colton Hood boosted his draft stock a ton, so he ends up here with the Jets at number 33. Moving on here to number 34. This is a team in the Cardinals that we earlier on in the draft took a super talented player, upside guy in Arvell Reese. So now we need to go out and grab a D lineman to pair with Arvell Reese. And this is Peter Woods out of Clemson, one of the more talented players in this draft. Again, a guy that was mocked inside the top 10 in the way too early mock drafts from last season. And Clemson just having this awful season dropped a lot of their guys down the board. But look at all the talent they had. I don't know how they weren't better. We've had five Clemson Tigers go inside the top 34. So very talented team. A lot of guys that are going to end up in the NFL, and a lot of guys are going to end up being first and second round picks. I think Peter Woods is a really good one to add in with the Cardinals at 34. Of course, this is my Titans here at 35, so I will make this pick. And the Titans, they have two ways they can go. There is a player here that is very enticing to me. I think the Titans absolutely could explore going that way, and that is Keldrick Folk out of Auburn. And there's also the offensive line side of things. They have not addressed the offensive line issue yet. Keelan Rutledge would be the name that I'm looking at for the Titans at 35. But for me, I didn't go with defense earlier in this draft. So I'm going to go ahead and go on the defense side of the ball here and go Keldrick Folk out of Auburn. A player to me that is just incredibly talented. He can shift down, play inside on the interior of the defensive line. I think he's actually good enough to be in the first round of this mock draft. I think he's that good of a player. I think that with the Titans' versatility, they could use him on the interior or on the exterior of the defensive line, and they are going to need edge rush more than likely at some point. Go get Keldrick Folk. Let him be an unbelievable player for you, and if he turns into the upside, you got a steal at 35 in the second round. I think he'd be a really good fit for the Titans as well in that Robert Saleh defense, which could be very good next season. Moving on to number 36 here with the Las Vegas Raiders. Of course, a team that is going to make some big additions with the quarterback. Now let's go to the other side of the ball. Colin, who are you going to have them taking here at 36?
Yep, I've got him going with Caden McDonald out of Ohio State. Had a really good year. He's worked his way up into the first round in some mocks. We've had him in the first round in a couple mocks as well. So I think the Raiders are getting a steal here in the second round. A really good player, obviously, on that Ohio State defense that was really good. And the Raiders are another team that need a bunch of positions. So I think positional value here, you're getting a really good player in Caden McDonald.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. Again, very, very talented. Had a great season with Ohio State. And if you're on one of the best defenses in the country, playing against some of the best O lines, it's going to make you a better player. I think that absolutely he improved his game, and he makes sense there at 36 to the Vegas Raiders. Moving on to 37 here. The Giants, we did not address the offensive line earlier in this mock draft, so we're going to do that now and grab Emmanuel Pregnon, who is arguably the best guard on the board available at 37. Can slot in and immediately start for this team at the guard position. That's the big reason why you're drafting him here is because he is a plug and play player on day one. Can make this rushing attack better, can protect Dart better, who needs to protect himself a little bit better as well. But just makes the offense overall better for the Giants, and that is something they need to improve with that incredible defense that they could be running out there this season. Moving on to number 38 here with the Texans, and this is a team we've already grabbed an offensive lineman. So we're going to go on the other side of the ball, grab an interior defensive lineman in Christian Miller out of Georgia. Another really good interior defensive lineman. I think this draft has quite a few really good ones that are right here at the end of the first round, beginning of the second. There's some very talented players there. So if you're looking for those interior D linemen, this might be the place to take them. I think he makes a ton of sense to the Texans as well. Like I said, you can see that listed there as one of their needs, but they have to address that. Get a little bit of run stopping ability from those guys on the interior. And like we said, we've already addressed the offensive tackle position or the offensive line position in general. So grab the defensive lineman and plug and play him for next year's really, really good Texans defense that is only getting better. Colin, moving on to number 39 here with the Cleveland Browns. Where are you going to have them going?
Yep, I've got him going. Brandon Cisse out of South Carolina. He's the best corner left on the board at this point of the draft, and we've already had him. They've drafted a quarterback and a wide receiver, so that kind of takes care of their needs on the offensive side of the ball. Obviously, still need to build up that offensive line as well. But I think Brandon Cisse, I don't know that you can pass up on him at this point in the draft. We've mocked him in the first round at some
Yeah.
points in the year, so. Another really good corner, and yeah, I think the Browns are getting a good player here with Brandon Cisse.
Yeah, absolutely. I love this guy. This is one of my favorite corner prospects in the draft. I wouldn't be mad if the Titans looked at him. Of course, we added some big free agency additions at the cornerback position, but I think he's very, very talented, has a lot of ability, and if you're getting him at 39, he could be a future top corner for you moving into next season. Rolling on into number 40 here with the Kansas City Chiefs. Of course, they've already addressed some of their needs. Go out and grab a high potential corner and a high potential receiver. Right here, we're going to go with a linebacker in Jake Galday out of Cincinnati. One of the big reasons here is they like to pass rush with their linebacker some, and Galday himself had over 60 pass rush attempts last year at Cincinnati. He actually had 12 pressures, so that's really solid from a linebacker. Just fits the Spagnuolo defense very well. Makes a lot of sense for a team that needs linebacker help. He can slot in, be the guy that can maybe give you some pass rush help, like I said, but also was a veteran leader at Cincinnati. Perfect fit there in the Spagnuolo defense at 40. Colin, moving on to number 41 here with the Cincinnati Bengals. What are you going to have them taking?
Yep, I've got him still stacking up on that defensive side of the ball, and getting Anthony Hill Jr. out of Texas. He's honestly, if I remember correctly, he's still super young.
Yeah,
So,
yeah,
and he's not only is he young, he's really experienced. He started pretty much
yeah.
every year there at Texas, and he's been really good. We've mocked him in the first round as well before. So, and like we said, the Bengals defense is terrible.
Yeah.
So they need help wherever they can get it, on the defensive side of the ball. So I love this pick for the Bengals.
Yeah, and you mentioned his age. I don't think he'll even be 21 years old when he's drafted. So that's just incredible. You're getting a 3-year starter in college at he's not even 21 yet. I mean, that's insane. He's got so much potential, so much ability, and a long career potentially ahead of him. They need a linebacker very, very much one of their top needs. So I like that pick a ton there at 41 for the Bengals. Moving on to number 42, go out and get Tyler Shough some weapons. Heck, maybe you're grabbing that Louisville connection, and Louisville receiver Chris Bell goes in and plays with Tyler Shough there in New Orleans. Love the fit. Think Chris Bell's a very good player. We've had him mocked in the first round. I think we had him going 26 to the Bills at one point. I think he's a really high upside player. Did have a couple injury concerns, and maybe that's why he drops down the board. But you pair him beside Chris Olave, and you have a pretty good receiver room for the future with Tyler Shough throwing the ball around to those guys. Moving on to number 43 here with the Miami Dolphins. We were able to address some of their other needs earlier in this draft. Where are you going to be going at 43 here, Colin?
Yep, one need they still haven't addressed is defensive back, and I've got them doing that here with D'Angelo Pons out of
Yep.
Indiana. He's honestly, potential wise, he's got
Yeah.
some of the most potential in the draft at corner. I think this guy could be really, really good. And obviously, played really good there with Indiana as they went on to win the national championship. So I think the Dolphins address another need here. They've had a really good draft thus far, and I like this pick here for them.
Yeah, and the only reason he's dropping down the board is because he's 5'11", and they don't love a shorter corner because some of the receivers are like you have DK Metcalf who's out there 6'3", 6'4". It's hard to cover those guys if you're a small corner. But Pons is a playmaker, man, and I'm going to take my chances with a playmaker every day of the week. I love D'Angelo Pons. I think Miami will end up loving him as well there at 43. Moving on to number 44. The Jets are setting up the future for their next quarterback. If they're really bad this year, they're going to be high in the draft next year, and there's some really good quarterbacks. Well, we've added them some help at receiver. We've done a couple other things to address some needs. Now let's go out and grab a guy that could potentially be your tackle for the future, and Max Ienicher out of Arizona State. This is a very high upside tackle. He maybe sticks at that position, but again, even if he doesn't, it doesn't hurt to take a tackle and move him down to guard because, again, overall, you have to have a good offensive line if you're going to bring a young quarterback into that system. And heck, you might need a good offensive line to protect the old man back there in Geno Smith, who's going to be your quarterback this year. So it doesn't hurt to go out and grab a tackle that could potentially stick at that position. And even if he doesn't, he's going to help you with depth overall and maybe slotting into the inside. But I like Max Ienicher. I think he fits perfect there with the New York Jets at 44. Moving on to number 45 here with your division rival, Baltimore Ravens. How are they getting better?
Yep, we're going to give them a little bit of help there in at defensive back. We're going to go Keith Abney out of Arizona State
Yep.
to pair up with Nate Wiggins in the secondary for Baltimore there.
Yep.
I think this guy could be a really, really good corner. We've had him mocked in the first round as well.
Yep.
So getting him at 45, I think, would be some really good value for the Ravens. Obviously, they need a little bit of help in the secondary. They've got Nate Wiggins, and then not too much outside of that. Obviously, Kyle Hamilton, but he's a safety. So I like this pick for the Ravens.
Yeah, yeah, and I think it's a really good pick. This is a big, lanky corner that's athletic and can make plays. I think Keith Abney's a great player. I think if he's available at 45, he's a really good player. Again, we see back-to-back Arizona State players, that team that did make the playoffs 2 years ago, producing some NFL talent now. I just love Abney. I think he's a perfect fit there. And like you said, they do need some secondary help with only having Wiggins back there. Moving on to the 46 here with the Buccaneers. What's one way to help out your quarterback? Give him a superstar tight end. Eli Stowers was really, really good in college. He was one of the best tight ends in college football for the last 2 years. I think that they can use him in a big way. They just re-signed Otten, but Otten can be that inline blocker, whereas Stowers is your slot receiver, your guy that goes out and makes plays. We saw how good Emeka Egbuka was at time for them, but they need more weapons. They lost Mike Evans, so that's a weapon gone. You need to add a weapon when you lose one. Eli Stowers could absolutely be that very good pick there at 46. Extremely talented tight end that has a lot of upside. Moving on to number 47 here with the Indianapolis Colts. Colin, we're going to have them going.
Yeah, I've got him going with Zion Young out of Missouri. the Colts, they need a edge rusher. I think this fills that need there. And
Yep.
not only that, you're getting some really good value for him.
Yep.
He had a good year there for Missouri. So getting him at 47, I think you'd be happy with that if you're a Colts fan.
Yeah, and again, another guy that has pretty good untapped potential. Had a good season at Missouri, like you said. Brings athletic edge rush ability as well, and the Colts do need to go out and address that. Just give them some more help on that defensive side of the ball. Moving on to number 48 here with the Falcons. I think their dream is to be able to watch the guy or pick the guy that they watched all year, who we had going way earlier up here in Christian Miller. But they do need to address that interior of the defensive line. Lee Hunter is still here. He's highly ranked. A lot of people have him going even higher than this at 48. We're going to have him fall into 48, though. I think he's still got a lot of potential. Again, I think he addresses the interior defensive line need. I still think you're not settling for a bad player at all in Lee Hunter, who was in the college football playoff, played against talented teams, and had an overall successful season for Texas Tech, sliding in and starting immediately for that Falcons team. Moving on to number 49 here with the Minnesota Vikings. Colin, we're going to have them going.
Yep, I've got him taking Jadarian Price, the other running back out of Notre Dame. Honestly, this guy could be a first rounder maybe if they didn't have the number 4 overall pick also playing running back, which
Yeah.
this backfield was just loaded for Notre Dame this year. I don't know if I've ever seen that the first 2 running backs off the board come from the
From
same
same team.
schools. But the Vikings, they need a running back. Aaron Jones, he's aging, and you're getting a really good one here in Jadarian Price. Like I said, he may have been a first round running back had the number 4 pick not been a running
Yeah.
back.
Yeah, blocking him from getting all those carries. Very talented player. Makes a lot of sense for the Vikings. Like you said, Aaron Jones is only getting older. He's 30 plus years old. He struggled with staying on the field. And Jordan Mason, to me, is just not your future at running back. So go get somebody that can help your young quarterback. I said that with the Titans taking Jeremiah Love. This is the exact same situation. You get a young guy that can be with the quarterback for years to come. He can catch passes. He's a good playmaker. Love Jadarian Price. Think he's a good fit there with the Vikings at 49. Moving on to number 50 here with the Detroit Lions. Of course, we had them grabbing Vega Ione early on in the draft, so the interior of that offensive line is addressed. You could look at tackle here, but again, we've taken a lot of the top tackles off the board. We're actually going to go on the defensive side of the ball here and grab Gabe Akis. Of course, you're going to see that name and think, well, there's a J in there. It's silent. Learned that today as I went on to look into his name pronunciation. Knew the player, did not know the name. So we're going to go with Gabe Akis there to the Detroit Lions. Of course, he comes off the edge. He's opposite of Aiden Hutchinson, who is a very, very good edge rusher. Can make that this edge rush duo very scary. Of course, he's coming from Illinois, so slotting in and maybe be that strong edge rusher, like I said, opposite of Aiden Hutchinson. Moving on to number 51 here with the Panthers. Colin, we're going to have them going.
Yep, I've got him going with Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. If you just look at the guy, you can tell he's going to be a stud.
Yep.
And then those Iowa offensive linemen, they're usually pretty good as well. Corn-fed
Yeah.
boys there out of
Yeah.
Iowa. So you're also getting some protection for Bryce Young.
Yep.
Obviously, you need that as well. You went and got him a weapon. You're getting him some protection.
Yep.
So if he has some inconsistencies this year, I don't know how many more excuses you can
Yeah.
make for him. So.
Yeah.
I like this pick. Like I said, you're just building around Bryce Young at this point, and then if he doesn't show you what he's got this year, then I think you kind of have to move on and maybe try and get a better quarterback.
Yeah, absolutely agree with you. And like you said, all I have to say is look up Jennings Dunker, and you will know that he's going to be a future Hall of Famer in the NFL. Yeah, he looks like an offensive lineman. That's all I have to say. Moving on to number 52 here with the Green Bay Packers. Going to be going down the board just a little bit on the interior of the offensive line and grabbing Keelan Rutledge out of Georgia Tech. Of course, this is a team that runs the ball better than anybody in the country. They are going to pound the rock constantly. They have a quarterback that runs it a ton. They had 2 running backs that run the ball a bunch. Rutledge makes a ton of sense there at 52 for the Packers. Josh Jacobs, of course, sliding in behind him. And hopefully that gets him going again and has a really good season, a bounce back year. Love that Packers team. Think they can make a run. Keelan Rutledge only helps you do that with his run blocking ability, his mauling ability in the run game. Moving on to 53 here, Colin, with your Steelers. What are you going to have them doing?
Yep. Obviously, you still need a receiver, but I just don't think you can pass up on Jacob Rodriguez at this point. This guy was like in the running for
Yeah.
Heisman as a linebacker. You haven't seen that since Manti Te'o. Obviously, that didn't work out too great in NFL,
Yeah.
but I think Jacob Rodriguez could be a really good linebacker in the NFL. You've got one more year left with Patrick Queen and Peyton Wilson. He's shown you some good coverage skills, but he's not been very good at all in the run. And I
Yeah.
think obviously Jacob Rodriguez is going to be really good in the run, and then I think he can develop in the pass game as well. So I like this pick for Pittsburgh. Obviously, it's not a pressing need, but I think it in the future he's going to be really good. So I don't think you can pass up on him here.
Yeah, and again, you could put this guy behind Aaron Rodgers and let him learn how to play quarterback because this
Yeah.
guy was a former quarterback in college, believe it or not, transitioned over from that position to play linebacker. So Colin's doing it because this is a two-way superstar. This is your
Yeah.
future QB linebacker combo.
Otani.
Yes, yes. He is the Shohei Ohtani for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Going to be incredible to watch Jacob Rodriguez learn from Aaron Rodgers and develop. Just kidding, of course. Love the player. Think he's awesome. And like you said, if you're in the Heisman race as a linebacker, there's clearly a ton of talent there. I think he can be a great player for the Steelers. And again, he fits the culture there as well. Can develop into being one of those superstar defensive players, another one of them, because they just produce them constantly with the Steelers. Moving to 54 here with the Eagles, we were not able to grab an edge rusher early in the draft. Going to do so now. Grabbing R. Mason Thomas out of Oklahoma, high potential edge rusher. I think a lot of people could see him move all the way up into the first round and get taken at some point there. But we're going to have him falling here to the Eagles. They just get so lucky with drafts, man. They end up with tons of really good players all the time that slide down the draft board. Again, he fits perfectly there with the Philadelphia Eagles at 54. Moving on to number 55 here with the Los Angeles Chargers. Colin, we're going to have them going.
Yep, I've got them going with Chase Besantis out of Texas A&M, giving them a little bit of more of offensive line help.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have the two tackles that are very, very good, but then outside of that, you don't really have much if you're the Chargers. Like I've said before, when I watched them play the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, it pops up their PFF ranks, and it was when both tackles were hurt, and
Uh,
nearly every single one of their offensive linemen were ranked last in the NFL. So here you get your two tackles back, and you get a good offensive guard here. So a good pick here for the Chargers.
Moving on to number 56 here with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Of course, a team that had a very good season last year. That offense looks pretty good. So we're going to go out and help the defense a little bit. Grab Chris Johnson here. Of course, they have nightmares of guys named Chris Johnson when the Titans, Chris Johnson was running all over them. So they're going to try to flip the switch on the conference, or on the division, I should say, and grab Chris Johnson, the cornerback. Of course, a very talented guy out of San Diego State. You see some of these corners coming out of these smaller schools that are just very dominant. Good combine from him, good solid 40-yard dash and everything. So Chris Johnson slots in perfect and fills a need for the Jacksonville Jaguars at 56. Colin, Dub Bears at 57. What do you got him doing?
Yep. They lost Jaquan Brisker to Pittsburgh this offseason, so I've got them filling that gap with AJ Halsey.
Yep.
Jaquan Brisker, he's a downhill player, hard hitter, and I think that's exactly what you're getting out of
Yeah.
AJ Halsey. He's a really big safety,
Yeah.
so um, uh, good pick here for the Bears to fill in that spot that is now missing.
Yeah, and again, like you said, he's a big dude. He weighs 222 pounds at safety, so he's like a linebacker build back there. And yeah, you perfectly summed it up with what his ability is of coming downhill and wrecking havoc. Think he can do that for that Bears secondary, which does need a little bit of help, like you said. Moving on to number 58 here. Of course, this team goes out, adds Mike Evans. He is very old though, and Mike Evans, after the injury riddled season last year, you don't know the potential there. They've lost and missed out on guys. Of course, you lose Debo, he goes out and signs somewhere else. Ayuk had all of his issues. And so you need a receiver. You go get one here in Jeremy Bernard, who actually had some incredible plays last year at Alabama, one of which you'll never forget if you watched those games at the end of the season. He jumps up over a guy and catches it over his back. That play was unbelievable, and he could be very good in the NFL. His hands are incredible. There's obviously some things that make him fall down the board, and he's not a top pick, but there's a lot of talent there. And so Jeremy Bernard slides to 58 and could be very, very good for the Niners in the future. Moving on here to number 59 with the Houston Texans. Colin, we're going to have them going here.
Yep, I've got him going with Kyle Lewis out of Pittsburgh. The Texans have a history of developing defensive players. Look at their defense this past
Yeah.
year, one of the best, if not the best in the NFL. And you're getting another guy, Kyle Lewis, here, who some teams are looking at safety. So obviously he's really athletic.
Mhm.
And I think with just an athlete in general, I think that you can develop that into a very good defensive
Yeah.
player. And obviously, like I said, the Texans, they've got a history of it. So I like this pick here for the Texans.
Yeah, and if you think about that Texans linebacking core, Azeez Al-Shaair is the absolute dominant downhill monster of a hitter. I mean, he's gotten thrown out of games for hitting people. So you've got that on one side. So now you go grab that coverage linebacker. And like you said, they're talking about him potentially playing safety for some teams. That's how good his coverage skills are. So it makes a lot of sense to grab that kind of linebacker to put beside Azeez Al-Shaair, who is incredibly tough to get by in the run game. He's a very big time hitter. So good fit there at 59 with the Texans. Moving on to number 60 here. Of course, this is a team in the Dub Airs. I'll keep calling them that throughout the video, but you see them take Halsey there just a few picks ago. But the secondary is still a concern, and they still need to address the secondary, fix the secondary. Here we're going to go with Keontae Scott out of Miami. Colin, I know this is one of the guys that you like a lot. You wouldn't be too mad if the Steelers ended up having him on the roster at some point, but incredible combine. The dude pumps out a 4.3, and we saw people last year drafted just because of that. Maxwell Hairston moved up the board because of his crazy combine. So you know that can boost people up the board. He's playing on a defense that was in the national championship game and was a huge part of fixing that team. That secondary was terrible at Miami 2 years ago, and they fixed the secondary and they made it to the national championship. So this guy was a huge part of that. Makes a ton of sense for Dub Airs to fix the secondary, and they grab AJ Halsey and Keontae Scott to try to fix those errors that they have there. Moving on to number 61 here, Colin, with the LA Rams. What are you going to have them doing?
Yep, obviously had him, I guess, fill a need there at wide
Yeah.
receiver, if that's what you want to call
Yeah.
it, with some question marks there. Typically, before everything went down, with Puka, it would have been
Yeah.
a tackle, and that's what I've got him going with here with in Caleb Tiernan.
Yeah.
It's the best tackle available at this point in the draft, and it's not a bad one either. So. Like I said, those Big Ten offensive linemen usually they're usually pretty good.
Yeah.
So Caleb Tiernan here, I like the pick for the Rams, and you're getting Matthew Stafford some protection. Even if he doesn't start year one, he'll develop into a starting tackle for the Rams.
Yeah, I agree with you fully. They need to go out and address the tackle position. Like you said, they grabbed the receiver early on in the draft in Mekhi Lemon. Now you get that tackle to potentially slide out on the outside and protect Matthew Stafford because, again, like you said, it's the end of his career. He needs to have guys that can play for him, protect him, and let's try to win a Super Bowl. If you're the Rams, it's the time to do it is now. Moving to 62 here with the Broncos. They did trade that 30th pick. I think that was where you would grab a linebacker. There just so happens to be a pretty good one here still available at 62, and they have to grab a linebacker. This defense desperately needs a linebacker, and Josiah Trotter is available from Missouri. Had a very good season in the SEC. If you're drafting a guy out of the SEC, you've seen him play against top end competition, so that's a plus. And like I said, this is an absolute position of need. When you're in the second round and there's still very good players available at positions of need, you grab them. Broncos, again, I think there's no chance they pass up on a linebacker. Whichever one's available at 62, I think that's who they end up grabbing, and I think it is a good pick for them to help them next year with what was already a really strong defense. Moving on to number 63 here with the New England Patriots. Colin, we're going to have them going.
Yeah, first round we went with the on the defensive side of the ball. You could have argued receiver there, but there wasn't too many of the first round guys left
Yeah,
at that point. But now we're got them addressing wide receiver. Obviously in the offseason they went and got Romeo Doubs,
yeah,
and then you saw last year Kayshon Boutte, he was able to emerge as a pretty good receiver, but I still don't like Doubs and him
yeah,
as a 1-2. Still not a great receiving core, and I think it's really impressive that Drake May was able to do what he did last year with the receiving core he had. Obviously, he had Diggs, but now they don't have Diggs anymore, which is definitely not going to help anything. But I've got him going Chris Brazzell out of Tennessee, Chris Brazzell, however you pronounce it.
yeah.
Interesting fact about this guy, he lined up on the right side every single snap in his college career except for two snaps. So I saw a video of some guy, somebody called him NASCAR because all he can do is turn left. But we'll see if he's able to line up on the left side and right side in the
Yeah.
NFL. I'm sure it'll probably take a little getting used to if he does line up on the left side some, but I'm sure it'll be fine. And I think this guy's got a ton of potential. He's got
Yeah.
speed and size combo. So I think the Patriots could potentially get a steal here with him at 63.
Yeah, and like you said, Brazel, the speed and size combo could be unbelievable. He was very good at Tennessee on that right side. Like you said, NASCAR, perfect nickname for him. Every time I see him, I'm going to think of that now. So we'll see what happens and see if Drake May, or should I say Drake May can turn him into a superstar with the New England Patriots. They're going to have some awesome nicknames on that team. Moving on to number 64 here. Last but not least, with the defending champions. They're going to go fill that hole that they have now because Kenneth Walker goes off and signs with the Kansas City Chiefs. If they needed any help, they got it. And now you're going to try to fix that with Mike Washington Jr., running back out of Arkansas. And the story with this guy is Mike Washington is 6'2", 220 pounds, and he ran a 4.33 at the combine. I mean, that is unbelievable. That is, you absolutely are willing to take a shot on a guy who ran a 4.33 at 6'2", 220 pounds. So they're going to go out and draft him. Colin, I know you had the opposite side of when the Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet situation, so you never got any touchdowns. Now Mike Washington could be the guy that you either draft and he misses all the touchdowns, or you draft Charbonnet and he misses all the touchdowns. Either way, Colin probably stays away from that Seattle Seahawks running back room, but this guy is incredible. He's ultra talented, and I think it could be a really good pick for that team that maybe needs a little bit of help in the running back room with Charbonnet coming off of a bad injury and Kenneth Walker leaving to go to the Chiefs. Of course, now you're looking at the first round of our mock draft here. Quickly, we'll review these. We've talked about the first round plenty of times in the past, so not too much to really go over here. Colin, if there was just any pick there that you wanted to pick out as a steal or maybe your favorite pick of the first round, what would that be?
Yeah, so I really like Jordan Tyson to the Chiefs.
Yep.
I think, you give Mahomes another weapon. It could be scary again, and
Yeah.
then you got him filling in corner in the second round. And then for the Bengals, I love Caleb Downs. I think he's one of the best players in the draft. Obviously, they have a little bit of concern with the injury
Yeah.
or whatever it is with his knee. But I don't know that there's really too much concern for me because I think he started every single game of his college career. So I don't know
Yep.
that he missed any time. And then obviously they get another linebacker in the second round.
Yeah.
I don't think that Bengals fans would be mad if they drafted defense like
Yeah.
6 out of the 7 rounds in
Yeah.
the draft, as bad as that defense was last year. Maybe draft a offensive lineman for
Yep.
Joe Burrow as well. Throw
Yep.
that in. And then I also like Kenyon Sadiq for the Panthers. Like I
Yep.
said, getting Bryce Young another weapon, and not only can he run routes and is he fast, he can block pretty well too. So multi-talented tight end there for the Panthers. Like you said today, most tight ends are either strictly blocking
Yep.
or can just run routes, but I think you get a little bit of both with Kenyon Sadiq.
Yeah, if I'm looking at this first round, first name I have to mention is Ruben Bain Jr. This is a guy that we had going at number 2 in a lot of our mocks early on. If the Saints get him at 8, he could be a very, very good player. In the arm length concern, we'll see if it happens in the NFL. If he's as good as he is in college, he should have been the number 2 pick. It's just going to be like, what do you get out of him? Do you get the short arms that mess him up and he isn't as good? Or the question marks are all there. 11, Francis Mauigoa stays in the Miami Dolphins stadium, literally plays in Hard Rock yet again. I think he's incredible. I think it's a very good value pick there at 11. And then, like you said, I have to mention it too. Jermod McCoy at 29 could be the steal of the draft. If he's as good as he's supposed to be, and he is fully healthy and never has any more issues, he's going to be incredible. It's just the question marks, and we wanted to experiment with that today, so we had him fall down the board a little bit and land at 29. One more pick in the first round I like, 26. The Bills go out and get C.J. Allen, who was a captain of the defense with Georgia, of all teams who have top end defenses every single season. He was running that defense. So I like that pick a ton. I think he's a very talented player, and I think he can come in and do that for the Bills immediately as their number one linebacker moving forward. Colin, of course, this is a two-round mock draft, so we got to look at more than just those first-round guys that we love. Is there anybody here, 33 through 50, that you can see on your screen that you like a lot? And then I'll let you look at the rest of this second round as well and give me another name or two if you like those guys.
Yep, I already kind of mentioned it in the first round, but I like Anthony Hill to the Bengals because, like I said, they've got a ton of needs on that defense, and you can address two in the first 2 rounds with two really good players. So I think
Yeah.
that helps the defense immediately for the Bengals. I like D'Angelo Pons there to the Dolphins.
Yep.
Like we said, he's got tons of potential. He was really good on a national championship winning Indiana team. So I think that could be a really, really good pick. And then I love Keontae Scott. He's got some pretty good size for a corner. And then, like you said, he's blazing fast. So I think there's a ton of potential there. And it's not just the size and speed. He also was locked down for Miami all
Yeah.
year. So I love that pick as well.
Yeah, and I'll start bottom and go back to the top, go in the inverse order of what you did there. 64, Mike Washington. If this dude is really a 6'2", 4.33 running back, he could be unbelievable in the NFL. It's just what's the on the field talent going to look like? He played for a 2-10 Arkansas team, so how much was he really able to show off his talent there? I think this guy could be incredible. I think it's a really good pick if they get him at 64 because it's a swing, and why not take a swing when you're a Super Bowl winning team? You could grab an unbelievable running back at 64. Going to roll up here and talk about D'Angelo Pons as well. I think you're absolutely right. This is unbelievable. If D'Angelo Pons, if you just take away him being 5'11", it's a first round corner all day, every day. He is a playmaker. He's very good at reading the ball in the air. He picks off passes at a high level. He does a lot of things right. And if you do a lot of things right, you can usually succeed in the NFL. D'Angelo Pons to me does a lot of things correct, and I think that's a really good player. Then I think that'd be a great pick for the Dolphins in the start of that rebuild. And then 35. I love the Titans, but I'm still going to shout them out a little bit here. Keldrick Falk is a potential top 20 pick. If he falls to 35, I think the Titans are absolutely getting a steal that fits this defense of Robert Saleh perfect. I mean, I love the player, love the fit. Again, very, very good pick by the Titans if they're able to snag him at 35 in the second round after they take that weapon at the top of the round with Jeremiah Love at 4. And then last but not least, Colin, I know you're going to want to talk about him, so I'll talk about him first. Jacob Rodriguez at 53 is a really up in the air type of player. If he is the Heisman level defender that he was in college and he's turning over the ball 14 times, count them, 14 turnovers he forced in college. That is unbelievable. He is changing the game every game by giving your team another possession. If he does that in the NFL, you're going to be a very, very happy man if you get him at 53. And the Steelers could have a top tier linebacker in the NFL. Colin, I'll now give you the floor if you want to talk about Rodriguez and anything else the Steelers did in this mock draft we had here.
Yeah, obviously you they've got the highest paid defense in the NFL,
Yeah,
and you just add a little bit more money to it. But obviously you want a receiver if you're Pittsburgh, but just the way this draft fell, I didn't really like any of the receiver options at with either one of their picks.
yeah,
So I ended up going defense both times. Like I said, they do have a need at safety, so you address that in the first round. And I know they've interviewed McNeil Warren, so that is a very possible pick there for them at 21.
yeah,
And then with Jacob Rodriguez, like you said, 14 turnovers, Heisman candidate. You just
yeah,
don't see that in as for linebackers in college football. So I like the picks. I think it really bolsters the defense. You
yeah,
still have a need for wide receiver 3, but at the end of the day, I think you're in a better position at wide receiver because of the trade for
yeah.
Pittman. You're not left with Calvin Austin as your wide receiver 2. You've at least
Yeah.
got a reasonable option there for wide receiver 2.
Yeah, and it'll be fun to see what the Steelers do down the board because, again, they could grab a running back. That's a thing they could do because, of course, they lost running back depth there this offseason and receiver. It's going to be something they look at, absolutely, in this draft at some point. There's a lot of talented players. For my Titans, I think weapons for Cam Ward is top of the list. So we're going to be looking at those same receivers you are looking at. And I think that I'm in the same boat as you are. I just like Keldrick Falk's ability way better at 35 than I did somebody like Chris Bell, but the Titans could absolutely be looking at receiver there at 35, even though they took Jeremiah Love in the first. So it'll be interesting to see how both of our teams play out this mock draft or the draft in real life on the 23rd. Again, if you guys enjoy the video, please like, subscribe, comment. It helps us a ton to know what you guys want to see in the future, but also to know if you guys enjoy. Again, if your team was in this mock draft and you saw us do something that you liked, let us know. But if you didn't like it, let us know what you would have done instead. And again, it only helps to give us ideas for future mock drafts that we can talk about. There's only going to probably be 2 more before the real draft. We'll discuss it as well, and when the draft ends up finishing up. But I can't wait for the draft. It's one of my favorite nights to just sit down and see what teams are adding, new players, and those guys in those situations and how they'll play for those teams. But Colin, if you got anything else you want to add, the floor is yours.
Yeah, I wish I could go to the draft this year. It's
I
in
know.
Pittsburgh. Unfortunate, I won't be able to make it there. But it should be a fun watch. I'm curious to see who goes two through the rest of the draft.
Yeah.
Obviously, we know who's going one, but the rest will be interesting to see how it all plays out.
Yeah, and again, thank you guys so much for joining us. Like I said before, like, subscribe, comment helps the channel out a ton. There will be more mock drafts coming. We will probably do one trade mock again. We have discussed doing that. This is our 2 round mock, though. This will probably be the last one we do, and then we'll do our official last mock draft right before the draft happens, and that'll be exactly what we believe happens, just based on what we've done throughout the whole entire offseason and based on some of these reporters that actually get to dig in with the teams and talk to the actual scouts and the teams themselves. So we'll do that last second, right before the draft. But again, thank you guys so much for joining us, and we hope to see you guys in the next one. Peace.
Peace.